Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking to you from the capital of the internet, Cambridge, Massachusetts. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Lant. I'm the CEO and the co-founder, Chief Nudge and Bottle Washer. I'm here with Lance Sumner, one of our fine senior monitors. What we're doing tonight, I wish I never had the opportunity to do. I wish that I never learned about this incident. I wish that I never knew these people. I wish that nothing had ever happened to them. I wish that we had gone our lives peaceful and alive. But that isn't the way fate worked. This is the fourth part of a singular series of articles written by a person who was trapped in his home for days, through the trauma, the massacre, the Boston Marathon killings. We have, over the course of the last 3 nights, looked into these killings in detail. But I wanted to end this series on a friendly, upbeat, amiable, peaceful note. So I turned to Lance Sumner, inviting him and his 2 children, Rochelle and Joshua, to visit me. And they did, and we had a wonderful time. One of the things that we saw was Boston Marathon Killers People's Monument. And we went to visit it on the last day in Copley Square in Boston, when the city was at its still hyper-traumatized. So Lance, first of all, I want to introduce you and tell you thank you for coming and sharing what can only be a mixed message of joy and tragedy. I'm going to start the evening off by reading 5 blurbs from my autobiography. Then we're going to have you come up. Do you want to say anything now for the votes?
I'm just honored with the opportunity to article that you've written, and definitely here and just thankful that I'm a part of our Worldprofit family. That's it.
Well, that's a mouthful for sure. One of the people that was killed in the monument was 8 years old. His name was Martin Richard. Today, he'd be just 10. I bonded with the memory of Martin when I saw him and when I knew what he was doing. And I've written about him often now in the last 2 years. And tonight, I want to read to you a portion of what I've written about him in my autobiography, which is soon to be completed. When he died, I covered the walls of my home with pictures of Martin. I wanted to know him better before I wrote. And I often do this with the people I write about. So the first thing I want Michael Harris to do is put up the link I gave you. This is the Unlikely theme music. I'm going to give everyone a minute to click on this link and show the music using this is rather different music, or a kind of tribute. And I tell you, it's absolutely perfect. Now I'm going to read you just a little bit so that you understand how this is not just a story. This is a piece of us, a piece of our history, a piece of remembrance. So now I hope that everybody has clicked on that link and that you're listening to. Yes, shake that groove thing. There's nothing more that I'd like to do. That's the heading of the section. Midnight plus 50, April 15th. I am determined. I will not remember what I cannot possibly forget. The horrific events surrounding the Boston Marathon murder symbolized for me by Martin Richard, aged just 8. On that happy spring day 2 years ago, he and his memory are now part of the jumbled apparatus of what makes me, me. I see Martin with his wildly festive posters. I cannot bear it. I dance. I see Martin, his shy smile, urging flexibility and love upon all of us. He is just hours from death. I cannot bear this. I must dance. And I will, upon pain of certain vivid remembrance. I dance for Martin. I dance because I must dance, because I can. And while I have the ability, I shall act. You say, have a care. You are just a day or two from 70. I tell you, I shall dance whether you like it or not, because only in dance is there peace from the unremitting pain of memory. Shake that groove thing. The music gives us a chance, and we must all take it. Lance, that's a bit of an introduction from you. My great privilege to introduce again Lance Sumner, who's going to be reading to us about the happy end, or interregnum, if you wish, during which he and his children came to Boston. Lance,
right.
All yours.
Right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that introduction. And so, as we're here tonight with our CEO, Dr. Jeffrey Lant, and I'm going to take the time and read the article that was written in relation to our visit with him up there in our wonderful town of Boston and Cambridge. And but I'm going to ask each and every one of you, a lot of you out there looking right now, we want you to come in here, say hi to us while I'm reading this. Go ahead and take the time and fill out the short form on the page you're looking, and step in here and become involved and say hi to us. Listen up. I'm sure you'll appreciate this. All right. The title of this article, your correspondent visits a great lady he once knew so well and discovers how much he missed her. Boston, Saturday, June 22nd, 2013. Dr. Jeffrey Lant. Author's program note. I woke up at 5 a.m. today, more than a bit out of focus and disheveled. I looked in the mirror and was sure that with what I saw, my perennial title as fairest to the fair was now surely in jeopardy. Most drastic of measures being required, and promptly, too. Then I recalled Agnes Gooch's memorable line from the 1958 film version of Auntie Mame. I've lived, now what do I do? I knew what she meant and smiled. It happened in just the last 24 hours. Simply this. I had left my snug eyrie in Cambridge to see what I could see across the Charles River in Boston. A city as near as a whisper. A city I once knew like the back of my hand. A city I once loved but neglected, thereby causing me to wonder with some anxiety how she would receive me. But first, the music. When one goes on excursion, music, the right music, is de rigueur. Thus, for this notable day, I selected a song sure to irritate the maximum number of people, as sure as screeching chalk on a blackboard. It is The Happy Wanderer. If you're like most people, you might assume it was a traditional German folk song. But you, like me, would be wrong, for it was written by Friedrich Wilhelm Müller shortly after World War II, only later being translated into German. School music teachers, sadly dwindling breeds, squeezed out Philistines on short-sighted school boards, adored it. It was peppy, wholesome, upbeat, a tune for Boy Scouts and their fresh air ilk everywhere. Predictably, I hated it in school and felt just plain silly being jaunty when my preferred mode was the mordant and supercilious. That is why I chose this tune to serenade my guest and driver, all of whom did me the favor to wince as I belted it out, the better to begin our journey. I love to go wandering, and as I go I love to sing, Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, ha 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 ha. You will find it in search engine. And
that is pathetic. That is truly pathetic. Do it again. Valderie, Valdera. You ought to give it its full
Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera. Ha 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 ha. Okay. We'll find it in any search engine. And remember, always sing it at the top. Loudest of smiles. Enjoy. Dramatis personae. There are 4 characters in this drama besides myself. These include Lance Sumner, a former Army officer now working for the Defense Department, and his two children, Rochelle and Joshua. Lance is a dealer and senior monitor at the Internet hosting and traffic generating company I co-founded nearly 20 years ago, Worldprofit.com. We're all making their first visit to the city, alternately called Beantown, or the hub of the universe, and we're keyed up, excited by the high expectations of the day ahead. And why not? Luxury, comfort, spoiled rotten, the only way to travel. And so we set out on our adventure in the only way I travel nowadays. Black limousine with its essential captain, Amy Joseph, a man who understands that what builds successful business. Thus his phone number is on my speed dial, for I am of the age when comfort is essential and deference absolutely required. On time, ensconced in high good spirits, our bon voyage was thereby assured. Misstatements, unsupported opinions, wild suppositions, facts are as rare as hen's teeth. I commenced my worldwide travels 50 years ago. I approached care, consideration, the reading of not only guidebooks, but learned tomes on the people, politics, customs, and lore of the nations I was visiting, seated by my determination to go faster still. I was mad for knowledge and called myself a culture vulture. Only the brightest, most diligent of my friends earned such regard. Things have changed. This time I left the house with only my ATM card and nothing else. I figured that if any of us needed more than the accumulated, not always strictly accurate, history information we had collectively gathered, we'd find a guidebook, a guide, or even an internet connection with that monument and site we wish to see and know something more about. We use a sensible method, of course, but not, I confess, always. Often we simply pulled facts, theories, and conjectures, the more adamant because completely speculative from the addict that was memory. So, often hilariously, with too little scrupulous regard for the facts, man, just the facts, we cast aside the rigidity of fact for the comfortable alternative of unfettered guesswork. Inglorious it may have been, but who seeks for hard-earned glory on days of soaring temperatures and, for oi polloi, rivulets of acrid perspiration? Those for whom the absence of an air-conditioned car would be reckoned as cruel and unusual punishment. The disturbing People's Monument. Deep anger and concern about our easy national acceptance of something which was not so long ago unthinkable, unimaginable, never to be endured by denizens of the home of the brave, the land of the free. When you leave the comfort and security of home, sweet home, you declare yourself ready to learn, to grow, to admit that you don't know everything and are prepared to learn more. Some of this more may be good, some may affront, some may make you thoughtful and even distressed. So it was on our first stop on this sweltering day, the People's Monument in Copley Square, where the Boston Marathon ended in blood and heartbreak. Ever since the perpetrator's homemade infernal devices were detonated, 2:45 p.m., April 15, 2013, raining mayhem, confusion, and death. The everyday people of Boston and hundreds of visitors to this wounded city have, by placing tokens of their choice, flowers, running shoes, sports, memorabilia, each a loyal declaration, announced their solidarity with us and the civilized values we exemplify. When one visits this display, now about to be removed so that a permanent memorial can be erected, one is severely affected, even overcome by conflicting emotions, rage, anger, indignation, agitation for what occurred, concerned that even worse might lay ahead. What concerns me most of all is this: the ritual that now follows any outrage, whether organized by a single crazed adolescent gunman or the ideologue who murders with words of higher purpose on his lips, is now firmly in place. Thus this place of remembrance offends me, because tossing a quickly wilted flower on a heap of such offerings, whilst reassuring the giver his heart is in the right place, does nothing to solve the problem. And in fact, there is nothing at this site indicating there is a problem, unless that we are at work to solve it. We must always remember that if this problem by evil people is not solved by good people, the dead and maimed will have suffered in vain. Thus I leave this area angry at how easily we have, with meaning well, trivialized the entire matter. Then a soothing slogan, Boston strong, but we seem unable to do what is truly necessary to achieve it. And thus the next tragedy is assured, inevitable, unavoidable, and so we complete the devil's own work and ensure an unending succession of such tawdry sights and the people who would die to create them. Audio still good, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfect.
Miss Liz, when one travels by limousine, speed is never of the essence, but the proper presentation always is. This is why one glides from place to place, aloof, condescending, knowing every eye follows you, your every little move, which is, of course, precisely what's desired. Our next destination was Charles Street, a street I first learned about when so many years ago my grandmother gave me a set of childcraft books and the line drawing of Beacon Hill, which so captured my brain that I knew one day I would live there, and so I did on a street named Joy, which exactly conveyed my mood. For here I wrote my first book and walked Charles Street dreaming the dreams only permitted to the very young, like Rochelle. When I go to Charles Street, that young man is always there to greet and remind me. He would certainly have applauded the cool wheels. Thus we glided up Charles Street until I advised Mr. Joseph, always his amiable self, where to disembark his passengers, every passer-by pausing to bestow an envious glance on us as we emerged into their world of record-breaking heat, cool as cucumbers, to return upon summoning Mr. Joseph to retrieve us from wherever we should find ourselves. One-upping with a single letter. I requested to stop because I saw an interesting sign in the window of Devonia Antiques, antiques for dining. I possess many such antiques, and like all assiduous collectors, am always on the hunt for more. And so I climbed the dangerously steep steps to a memorable encounter. I was taking a sharp look at a lovely cobalt blue pattern, which years ago I had almost begun collecting. Bold, masculine, rich, stunning. I have always admired this Royal Crown Derby pattern, I said, and she responded, "It's pronounced Derby." Thus was the battle joined. With aspirated words, my good woman hung apparent, no one spoken in the air. "Please turn the plate over," I insisted. "Pray tell me what it says." "Made in England," she discerned. "How do they pronounce Derby in England?" Victory now assured. Thus was my expertise confirmed and her knowledge improved. Now, Miss Liz Rockwell and I could be friends, the proper hierarchy acknowledged and maintained. Did you? Miss Liz then asked, "Are you a collector?" My response was insouciant, casual, and false. A bit, whereas in truth I am a dedicated and obsessive connoisseur. Would you like to see my modest collection? Do you have a computer with internet connection handy? And in less time than it takes to tell you, Miss Liz was ogling the glorious vision that is the Red Drawing Room. You can see it at jeffreylantarticles.com. "It's you?" she asked, with the necessary awe in her voice, eyes big as saucers. My, I thought to myself for the 1000th time, the net is superb, crucial for making just the right impression. How did I ever live without it? Lance, the web engineer, cast me a respectful glance and said, "Well done, smooth colleague," and bought me lunch, but not before the bright, charming Miss Liz, my new friend, plied him with one great Boston venue after another, far too many for his current visit, but superb inducements to return. The locals are like that, generously sharing grand metropolis with the world, still the gleaming city on a hill. A city, so Lance said over and over again, of energy, vibrancy, and unfeigned welcome, even to me who had been away, uncaring, neglectful far too long, now gratefully forgiven and warmly embraced. That's why I shall continue a-wondering until the day I die. Valderie, Valdera. No knapsack on my back. Ha, 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 ha. That's the wonderful article.
You and I can have a bit of a chat here because how this all started was with Senator Charles Sumner. Right, you see the similarity, the identical similarity of the names here. And Lance, being like all persons, has no particular knowledge about his past. You know, it infuriated me because I kept telling him Senator Sumner. Now, I know that there's probably not a person in this room except for Lance who knows who Senator Sumner is. This, again, is a problem because he was a key figure for a period of time in American history. He was a senator from Massachusetts and the leader of the anti-abolitionist forces, the anti-slavery forces in the Senate. And one day, I believe it was in 1856, Representative Preston Brooks, who was a Southern slave owner, came into the Senate chamber after Senator Sumner had given one of the most famous speeches of American history called The Crimes Against Kansas, in which he talked about how we must stop slave owners from perpetrating and gaining control of Kansas, which was then on the list to become a state. And Senator Sumner was a very, very big man, a very handsome man, called the handsomest man at Harvard, the handsomest man in Washington. He used to take Mary with Todd Lincoln to parties because the president was so busy and because the president wanted Mary out of the house because she was a handful. Senator and Representative Preston Brooks came in with a gold-tipped cane and beat the senator into a coma, almost drowning him in his own blood, thus appreciably moving the Civil War that much closer. So I persuaded Lance to take a look at his heritage. Would you care to pick up the story at that point? What did you just? Did you feel pestered by me, as I hope you were? That I was going to force you to acknowledge your heritage.
No, I was. It was more being intrigued by the fact that didn't really think of it in what you brought up to me, and wanting me to go look and find out more.
And you did, and what did you find out?
Well, I just found out that there's, just the history, some importance that occurred within history, and so what that's drawn me to, is about thinking about any lineage that I'm connected to, and why that's important. I'll give you an example, as I felt, and you mentioned as Mary Todd. So I drove down to D.C. last night to go to the 150th anniversary for Lincoln, part down at the Ford's Theater last night, because I believe that every time there's an opportunity to be a piece of history, and you can do that, I think you should. And so I did. And at the same time watched a person fly right down onto the Capitol lawn with a helicopter, which was
that's frightening.
Quite worrisome.
It's irritating and it's frightening. Let's leave the helicopter to one side for a moment. First of all, I want to say, as I always do, that the invitations to the monitors like Lance always open to come and visit me. I want Lance to tell us a little bit about that. But do you recall when we went to the People's Monument, what you felt about that and what I felt about that and the children?
Yeah, it knowing that this was a recent, very recently happened, and they're seeing it was a very solemn experience, humbling kind of solemn experience. It was kind of, because when you get at that and you see kind of like your heart, there's heaviness on your heart, and then I know you have a view of this, but it's we looked there and we saw the many shoes to hats to things that people left one place, and it occurred, that this occurred, and so it just brought a heaviness of heart and thought, deep thought about that situation.
I approach the subject in many ways. I want to go back a little bit. I became aware of the situation in the Boston Marathon massacres in the afternoon of the massacre, and later in the evening when a friend called me when the MIT guard was shot to death by Sumner, who just was declared guilty on all accounts for murder. We are now in the Commonwealth in the midst of a debate on whether he should get life without parole or whether he should be executed. And without going into all the ins and outs of it, and I am not a knee-jerk conservative on the matter of capital punishment, I individual looks at each individual aspect of an event, I feel strongly he should be killed, executed, which will take many court trials and possibly even years to come. I want to talk to you a little bit about how it impacted on a regular person like me. I was called by a friend about 11 o'clock, because the 11 o'clock news had just gone on. He kept saying, get on the television right now. The image that I saw was the yellow police tape in front of the Metropolitan Moving and Storage Company, which is where people like me put all of our lives. My father's war letters from the Pacific, World War II are there. My parents' love letters are there. My often difficult correspondence with my parents when I was growing up was there. And all of a sudden you begin to aware of the drag of history and why so many people aren't interested. History needs curators, needs people who are capable and thoughtful about irreplaceable documents in your own life. I was very troubled, and my friends were calling me during the day, are you going to write about the marathon? And I said, no, I'm not going to write about it. I've written too many articles about terrorists. It's a constant theme of work for the last many years, right back to my first book 40 years ago, which was partly about Irish terrorism in the 19th century. I said, no, but I've written enough, and other voices. And then I got a call, middle of the night, from CNN, Manitoba, Canada. And they said, we have been informed that you are a commentator and that you are captured, essentially you are interned in your home and you cannot leave and you're in the middle of the perimeter, the war zone. I said, that is true. And they said, we'd like to invite you to come on the air now to discuss in a conversational way what's happening in Cambridge. Well, within the time of 1 minute from the time they called to the time I went on the air, it was 60 seconds or less. No preparation. I was groggy. I was irritated. I was angry. I was feeling put upon. I was trapped in my house. I felt that old verities of life in Cambridge would change forever. And we began to talk about this on the air. And I was the only voice in the perimeter by virtue of the fact that I lived there. We were surrounded by surveillance hot helicopters, airplanes, droids, National Guard, sheriffs and deputies of 6 states, the police from 6 states all the way down to New Jersey. The place was like a scene from hell. And I sat there, like my idol, Edward R. Murrow from CBS and the Blitz in London. And I remember his marvelous commentaries from war-ravaged London. Hello, this is London calling. I was told a little later on that over 1 billion people had turned in to listen to these commentators at what comments during the course of the next several days. And they started with the famous question, will you stay with us, Dr. Lant? Which means they were interested. They just wanted, they started and they manipulate you so that you don't get to eat, you don't get to sleep, you don't get to put on your clothes. And I think the first rather comical observation is that, like Marilyn Monroe, I had nothing on but the radio. And she was once asked what she was wearing. She said, I have nothing on. I have the radio on. Well, I have the radio on, too. So Lance, then the tragedy evolved. The killer went right past my home. He developed bombs 3 blocks away. And I was there to give the topographical details about where I was, what was happening there, and what the history was. The first person I want to thank, particularly since we're recording tonight, is Elizabeth English. And I'm sorry that she isn't able to be with us tonight. Elizabeth English, it looks like a puff of dandelion seed. She's small, she's a spitfire, she's incredibly funny, and she's a loyalist. She's what people like me look for in life. Someone who is solid, dependable, reliable, good humor, and is able to say, we did our best, even when we were dealing in a way that had never been done before. I was at home where I'm right now, speaking from my blue room, which Lant talked about visiting, and Elizabeth English set up a helping network. She assigned, the girl went like this. The people out in the perimeter knew nothing. They couldn't get access to any facts. They were trapped. Elizabeth English arranged to monitor ABC, NBC, CBS. I took CNN myself, of course. And then we got all people on screen, like Michael Harris or Johan Willems from different parts of the world, to talk about what happened when the news of the tragedy hit. How did people respond? We were so incredibly enormous, and anyone who was part of that night's structure, you deserve not only our kudos, our appreciation, and our love and affection. Because we showed what ordinary people could do in the midst of an international crisis. And one of the things that I talked about on CNN was this phenomenon, which was never done before. In the olden days, just about 40 years ago, a handful of men controlled all the major media outlets. They didn't exist. Now Worldprofit has technology which is better than they had then. Again, for those of you who are looking for a home on the internet, I take this opportunity to tell you, it's us. You will never find more conscientious, more dedicated, more tenacious, more fact-oriented, not theories but facts, than we have at Worldprofit. And so I first start by thanking George Kosh for inventing the Live Business Center. I've told him 1,000 times, this may be his schedule, his pièce de résistance. It certainly enables us to educate the world, and we serve the world, not just part of it. Lance, do you want to have any commentary at this point?
It's exactly like you said. We're here, and we're just always supportive to those out there that are really wanting to be successful and turn their lives around to the better. You have the full live support, and we have wonderful individuals who do the same thing as myself up here as a senior monitor. So you cannot ask for a more wonderful place or better opportunity to get yourself going on to being able to work from home or build your online income.
So Elizabeth English was my lieutenant, and she asked for the job, but I couldn't have had a better person. I couldn't have possibly had someone better than she did. Although she's been here, her health is very different. You can rise to the occasion, even if your health is not good, and hers was never good during that period of affluence. Now, the internet and life is divided into those who say they're going to do it and do it, and those who say they're going to do it and muff it. You decide which category you're in, and if you make the wrong choice, it'll drag on you for the rest of your life. During the course of the next several days, several strange things happened, terrifying things. First, when the gunman went past the house. Secondly of all, when I went to the doorknob to go outside to see what I'm a journalist. I went out to see what I could see. The story was breaking in my own neighborhood. And a voice from I don't know where it came from said, "Dr. Lance, get your hand off that doorknob. You are to stay at home." I was frightened and startled by that. You can hardly imagine. All I could think of was that they were on the roof. I don't want to call them paratroopers, special forces, whatever they call themselves. And they saw me about to go outside, and they screamed, and I jumped back as if the doorknob was red hot. Lance, can you imagine what it was like if you got such a message like that? And it was not just a general message, stay in your home. It was, "Dr. Lance, get your hand off that doorknob." Well, I did. A little bit later on.
It would have been a little bit airier, a little bit spooky.
A little bit spooky. Well, imagine tonight someone's in your bedroom saying, "Lance, get up, get up, get up." You'd be spooked, all right. You'd be around the house with your weapons of choice. I finally did manage to kind of weasel out of my home, and I'll let Lance talk about that because we were coming to the town so we go for a visit. I went up. We have a church next door. Churches came from lots of and has seceded. When the Puritans came to Massachusetts, they divided the state into two parts. One, Boston for commercial affairs, and two, Newtown, which became Cambridge for theology. So I went out to the steps of the Christian Science Church, and on the grass in front of my home was a tank with its turret pointed into the heart of Harvard College, which is across the street. And I was completely startled, and into my mind flashed an irrevocable image of terror and bravery. It was down in Budapest in Hungary in 1956. The first political, certainly international photograph I ever saw in my life, and I was 9 at the time, of a freedom fighter throwing a Molotov cocktail into the Soviet tank. And you got the full heartbreak of the matter. Here's this gigantic tank that's undoubtedly blew the perpetrator away, literally, and pieces. And you felt this acute sense of pride, aggravation, humiliation, and fear, all mixed together. And I knew the world had changed forever, because this is the ultimate academic town, and all this was happening in the face of Harvard Law School. 6 of the 9 justices went to Harvard Law, and the Harvard Law is right across the street, and it's the home of due process. We were not having any due process that night. So Lance then, skip ahead a bit, I was to CNN, and they were as fast as I wrote. And the other reporters and things were getting feeds from CNN at that point. And it ballooned into thank Larry from Manitoba, Canada. He called up, said, this is how we have power, people. Think about what I'm talking to you about. He took the initiative to call CNN and say, our CEO is a well-known author, is trapped in the perimeter. You should call him. And he gave him my phone number. He took the initiative of himself. I didn't even know he knew anything then. And it wasn't until about 3 months later that I kept saying, who did this? Larry Spagnuolo stood forward and said, I have questions about what I did. I said, I want to thank you, but I want to know what you did you actually do to make this happen. Well, he got ill. He sent me an email a month or so ago and said, one of these days I will tell you everything that I did that night. Well, he put me in trouble. And if that number doesn't daunt you and humble you and live in your veins, you feel a tremendous sense of responsibility, care, thoughtfulness, and a need to be honest, true, and not melodramatic, just plain honest and Joe Friday, just the fact that. So during this time, Lance and I were in communication, as we always are. And Lance is a good person to talk to about these things because he's sensible, he's deliberate, he understands what to do in a crisis, and he did it. And I gave him an invitation. I said, you will bring those children in. And I'm going to let Lance talk a little bit about what happened then. That led to this article and led to our journey. You care to pick up the narrative.
Okay. Yeah, and so Dr. Lant had invited us to come up, and so we figured out what time was going to work good between myself and with the kids, and we made our way up to Boston, and we came there to meet Dr. Lant at the Commons there at Cambridge Commons, and came in there. So the first thing was when you took us up there to where you're at now, it was mostly just to walk in and awe, even though I could get from as we have now, but actually being there is history itself. So it put everybody in awe. And of course, immediately I have to go into the protection mode of everything with my kids, as Dr. Lant will bring to you. Kids, touch nothing. Keep your hands off. Careful. And so, but I think and the thing that what's funny is that out of everything, and I guess the part I'll bring up that's going to be remembered is that the kids immediately picked up on something shiny. Now, there were a lot of shining things in there, but the interesting part was the electrical outlets, the covers, being gold. And so they were intrigued by that, how there was gold everywhere, the outlets to some other type items, to the paintings, to the clocks, furniture, all these things. They got to be a part of that and be in there. And Dr. Lant, which was real nice, and Joshua was kind of excited by that, even though being able to put that crown, I don't remember exactly what the crown, but it only fit his head because it didn't fit ours.
It was designed to fit every head, but clearly it was like Excalibur out of the rock.
It really was, because
I want to say something about these gold covers, because it never dawned on me while I was putting all this together that was particularly notable. And I think it was the fact that everybody and their brother has X number of electrical outlets in your bedroom, in your kitchen, whatever. And there are almost 20 lights in this room in the form of lights that light up certain pictures and whatever. It's right for the jugular, and said, "What is this gold? Is this solid gold?" And I said, "Yes." I have a philosophy that those electrical outlets embody. Treat yourself as well as you can, because you deserve it. If you have been out living a hard scrabble life, as we all do to a degree, you have to reward yourself. Settle for less. And the came for an idea represents treating yourself to the level that you deserve. And that has to be personal. So this time we let Joshua tap. People like to touch on this. And Lance was the mother hen. He was leaning a chair, a table. He was there to sort of, remind his son. Well, his son did something which has never happened before. Just like that. It should have been in government, which had at one point a big export for the national patrimony of Germany to enable countries to build things that the owners get at. Joshua, he's about 20 at the time.
20.
Is brought multi in World War I. We all just him and like, what? Here's this kid, or not, he's secretly through us. And I said, no, that's not great. What I know that it never failed was they were into it. They were charming, and I was dubious about something that, so I could ruin your life. Persuading me of several things. And it was because of Lance and his children that I decided shortly thereafter to write my autobiography, because it was just too much to tell. And let people sort of do a little homework before they came. Then this opportunity wonders to visit the New England area or any other time. Come to visit. And Lance, if we could explain what happens when you come.
Well, it was also an opportunity where we always talk, here, being up here, and during the time monitoring and being able to, our CEO, Dr. Jeffrey Lant, was a time that with Amy Joseph, bring the limousine around, we got out. We got out and about, as in that article. And like Dr. Lant and the kids and I, we walked down to have dinner, of course, with a little treat, glass of wine.
Go on, tell them what I have to deal with. Even give away and agree, have to wheedle you.
What better place to have a better place than to have your kids first try a sip of wine? and
now admit it, you thought I was.
Really?
You thought taking that tradition.
Not really. It just off hard.
Oh, and because I love you so, I'm going to let that pass. But that wasn't the reality. I think Lance saw the demon rum. It entered his life. And then I insisted that the children have a teaspoonful or tablespoonful of wine. And Lance was really dubious by this point when I was seducing them to the evil ways. I had to laugh because my parents brought me up with the belief that you drink at home and you learn your liquor. You don't just drink on the street corner. If you're going to have Pinot Grigio, you get it, you look it up, and then you find out its heritage, and so it's a learning experience. And Lance gave me the biggest compliment after this. Do you remember what you said about conversing with your children?
I didn't hear that.
Do you remember making the comment about the conversation that was general, fully including your children for the first time? Do you remember that comment?
No.
If you don't, I surely do. You told me after that dinner that this was the first time in months that you had sat down with your children to a civilized dinner and actually talked to them as people. And I want to say that the conversation was general. The kids didn't sit there and gulp their food and say, let's go out in the park and play. It was an adult evening. It was charming. It was informative. And it was illuminating for everybody that it was actually happening in the fully civilized way. And I think there's a message in that. don't treat them like children, treat them as adults who
Yes, absolutely. That was true. That is, that is true.
That was a marvelous evening.
Yeah, because
and
normally.
Then we went to Harvard Square. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just say normally it was because of the activity, school or whatever, and it's it was one time where we were all and everybody joined in the conversation. We had a very enjoyable time, and yes,
that proved my point that you treat the way they want to be treated or they need to be treated, and they reciprocate. I had, along the same lines, I was talking to a street person in Cambridge, and Lance knows the square is 3 blocks away. And he said to me, he said, I've been watching you. He's a young black fellow with a police record as long as your arm, 20 years old. He said, you talk to everyone the same. Particularly just a slipper and see what he meant. He said, that's why you treat everyone the same. It's true. I treat drug dealers the same way as I treat the Queen of England. And I've known both, drug dealers and the Queen of England. So that's not just a line. What did you most learn about history? Because Lance is a history buff. I wanted to ask you for a while too. Did you share that article with any members of your family or anybody?
My kids and my mom.
Mother's count. Mother's absolutely count.
Right. It was pieces of history of, Boston, Cambridge, just how it was all part of our country. And I mean, from the USS Constitution, you took us over there. It was a really hot day, as Dr. Lant brought up, super hot and sweaty. And but I want to go to that story because Dr. Lant, we have to go over here. So Dr. Lant, kids and I, we march our way towards the square, coming up to, and he goes, yep, there's the statue. Now get over that fence and get in front of it.
I'm a good tour guide. I don't ask for your wishes. I say, just do this. It's better for both of us.
And we did, and a wonderful, and that was very memorable because we got to keep very nice pictures standing in front of Charles Sumner, the statue, there with the kids, and Dr. Lance snapping the picture while everybody that was around was watching. Why are we getting over the fence, the little protective fence? But they did that.
For me to do fences in my position, I take my my hands, and I kind of get trapped.
Creator, the Dotori, one place, right? One place. So it just does a sense of you're, in a place of many people that have, there are importance and things that have occurred for our history, whatever. So as we went around on the street area, from getting you out to get in the kind of.
Folks, this is a very strong book. Lance will be in it, and all of you monitors will help me with readings, whatever you'll be receiving a notice in a couple of days with a pattern, and I give you 150 to 250 words to tell the world what you think of the book, the process, and not the information about validity, irrelevance, whatever. Do you want to have any thought about that? Because you've been watching this book as it's materialized, and as it's grown. It definitely has grown.
Myself, along with many other senior monitors, have had an opportunity to take the time when Dr. Lant has asked us to read, right, and finish up, come to finishing up. You're going to definitely want to check this out. it will definitely going to be pull things out in you with some of the details. So you're definitely going to want to check this out. I'm just appreciative. It's actually an honor. It's just an honor to be able to read, because I've never in my life become such knowledgeable history or any of the things, but that's only because I've been here. Being almost like, and of course you're getting mentored. So I've been at the same time. So
is a sort of an odd analogy. But imagine, if you will, Thomas Jefferson with an internet connection, or Abraham Lincoln, or Franklin D. Roosevelt, or any of the great, or Mahatma Gandhi, or Nelson Mandela. These would be people that I talk to. So it's a very, people who come here for the first time can't quite believe this box, this box that rules the world. And I have the writers team who have been so helpful to me, and have learned a great deal in the process. It's a very odd thing to sit down and have the world at your fingertips and talk to this box as much as I do. One might be construed as being obsessive at the very least. Anyway, we're going to have more of that. So we're going to be ending our program. Lance, you have anything further to add? And anybody have a question or so before we go back to regular programming? And Patrice?
Thank you.
Do you wish to come up? Or
thank you for having me up to read and have dialogue, sir. Thank you.
Great privilege to have Lance. Lance is the kind of person you want to run in next door in your foxhole. General Amos, the quartermaster of the Marine Corps. I take by that in 5 minutes. Okay. It falls to me to give the last thoughts. I don't want there to be any last thoughts. I don't want to put this to bed. I don't want to put closure. I want to come to understanding. One of the things that's most shocked me over the last months and years is the development of a international terrorist network. They intercommunicate with each other. They're everywhere. They're capable of any outrage. Just today, I read by the Associated Press Wire the fact that there are 221 million children in the northern perimeter of Africa, Egypt, Syria, so on, Algeria, Tunisia, who will never have a day of school, not a single day. They will therefore not only miss out on the education, they will miss out on the social advantages. They will not learn to communicate with each other, work together, have fun together. They will not have proper nutrition that can be disseminated through schools. All that is necessary for our civilization to experience lacerations of a kind is for about 200,000 of the 221 million to be converted by terrorists who love them, give them food, ultimately give them belief, and give them weapons. The cataclysm of these people, armed and dangerous, is enormous for us. Lance saw today, what in hell are we doing when we let a helicopter land without any knowledge of the authorities, land on the lawn of the Capitol? Lance, can make myself very agitated with this thought. Do you have any thoughts about this before we close our program tonight?
No, it's just, it's concerning, and yes, it's agitating, and now it's about, kind of like what you said, what are we going to do about it? Get it fixed, like now.
I wanted to end this program on a high note. I am an American boy. I come from the Midwest. I'm not used to people putting tanks in my front yard. I believe in the green grass. Twice in my life, very odd things have happened on that grass. First, the tank, and then Jiang Zemin, the president of China, was parked on my grass one morning, showing you how the absurdity of life. He was there with his chauffeur, waiting for the riot to subside in the Memorial Hall where he was giving a friendship speech. This is the killer of Tiananmen Square, was on my grass. So I can tell this story too. And I went over to the car and I waved at him. And I knew it was his car because it was the Chinese diplomatic flag on the limousine. And I knew it was in Cambridge that day. I wasn't paying very much attention to it. I wasn't going to go to the river rally. I wasn't going to go at all. And then all of a sudden, it's me, the most powerful man on the earth, and his chauffeur, just the three of us. This is the way the world is now. These oddities can be more and more accepted. We have to understand that with the technology that we have available, we can fight back. We thought in America, and 99% of our citizens will tell you that the great debate between the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, liberty, freedom, was over. It was over, depending on how you count, in 1789, 1865, 1918. But it isn't over. The great questions of statecraft are now very much alive and well, to our detriment. And anybody who doesn't understand the change in geopolitics, geopolitical politics, is living a fool's paradise. So with articles like this, and with friendly programs like this, and with the good support of people like Lance Sumner, we will make a difference. We must work hard because we must win. Because to lose, we will not lose just ourselves, we will lose our souls. Lance, you're a brick, as they say in 19th century English novels. Come up. I want to thank you for those books. Lance has undertaken the education of Dr. Lant. I'm always delighted to see what he comes up with. And I want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in. And I want to thank Patrice Porter, who's spent her time so well, and we're glad to have her back. We're going to return on to regular programming. And remember, shake that groove thing. It is for the first time we take a disco tune and turn it into a paean of joy and necessity to deal with the crises of our times. We must get through them. We have no choice. We must do it. We must win. The consequences of losing are far too great to even contemplate. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Patrice. We will now end our programming and go back to our regular scheduled program.